A menacing house. Michael got lost when he was mushroom hunting. Yeah, those wily mushrooms are full of cunning. After hours of trying to find his way out of the woods, he came across a house that seemed to be deserted. He decided to try his luck and ask for directions. When he entered the house, the door slammed behind his back with a loud bang. He heard an eerie voice.
"You've entered my home uninvited, and you won't leave it easily."
Michael found himself in a room with 3 doors. The voice sounded again.
"Only one of these doors leads to freedom. Behind the first, you'll find starving wolves who won't think twice about making you their dinner. The second door hides millions of venomous spiders. If you open the third door, you'll be met by a raging fire. Choose wisely. You have only 7 seconds to find your way to freedom."
Michael should choose the third door. He'll then just need to wait until the fire goes out. Philosophy student's conundrum. You're a student, and you have an important philosophy exam today. Big stress. You, like most of your peers, haven't attended many classes or learned anything this semester. When you come to the exam, the teacher puts a chair in the center of the classroom and says,
"None of you learn my subject, so everyone will have the same chance to pass it. See this chair? Write evidence that it doesn't exist. The person who convinces me of this will pass."
Now, setting aside the fact that the teacher sounds just like the spook in the first question, what should you write to ace the exam? The correct answer is, what chair? A lake island. Mary is stranded on an island in the middle of an enormous deep lake. She can't swim and doesn't have a boat. The nearest town is on the shore 5 miles away from her. All she has is 3 ropes, each of them are 2 feet long. 3 hours later, Mary reaches the town. How did she manage to escape from the island? Well, it's winter, and the lake is frozen. Mary simply crossed the lake on the ice. Twins, but not twins? Bill and Joe are twins, born just 1 minute apart, with Bill being the older of the 2. But for some reason, they celebrate their birthdays 2 days apart once every several years. How is this possible? Bill was born at 11:59 p.m. on February 28th. It wasn't a leap year. So Joe, who came a minute later, was born on March 1st. That's why during leap years, they have 2 days of difference. Life is unfair. After a particularly heavy snowfall had let up, Daniel went outside and discovered that there was twice as much snow in his yard as in his neighbor's. But Daniel didn't look surprised at all. How come? Try to shovel your way to the truth in the next 7 seconds. There's no mystery to this whatsoever. Daniel's yard is 2 times bigger than his neighbor's. Anne's bizarre food preferences. Anne likes tomatoes, but not potatoes. She eats grapes, but not lettuce. She loves peas, but can't stand onions. She can eat cucumbers, but avoids carrots. Can you figure out if this picky girl prefers apples or pumpkins? Anne will always choose a good orange pumpkin because she only eats fruits and veggies that grow on a vine. A creepy well. Richard was returning home after a long day at work. He was walking through the park when he heard footsteps behind, and everything went dark. He woke up in a well. Luckily, there wasn't too much water in it. But as soon as Richard tried to climb out of the well, he realized that the walls were too slippery. He then noticed a rope with a bucket tied to it. The bucket was hanging pretty low, But try as he might, poor Richard couldn't reach it. After giving this problem some thought, though, he found the solution. Just 15 minutes later, he was out and running to safety. Can you deduce how Richard escaped? He took his shoes off and threw them into the bucket one by one. The added weight brought the bucket down, and Richard managed to escape. An unfriendly shop owner. Jacob owned an electronics store in a small town. One day, a massive crowd of people showed up, and no wonder. A new $1,000 gaming console had just hit the shelves. Jacob was swamped with sales from morning till late evening. Just as he was about to close, a man rushed in to make a purchase. He asked for a console and handed Jacob 2 bills. He had enough money to buy the console, and he didn't even need change. But the store owner immediately called the police. Why? The console cost $1,000, but the man gave Jacob only 2 bills. It means they were worth $500 each, and those don't exist. Penny riddle. Why are 1990 pennies worth more than 1989 pennies? Well, for the same reason why 10 pennies are worth more than 9. These are not years, but the number of pennies. A dangerous fall. Mary was standing on an 80-foot-long ladder with a bucket of paint. Don't ask me why. Suddenly, she slipped from the ladder and fell to the ground. But besides spilling all the paint, she didn't get injured at all. How come? The ladder was lying on the ground. The power of prediction. Mr. Jenkins doesn't have any superpowers, but he can predict the score of any football match before it begins. How? You could do that kind of prediction too. The score of any football match before it begins is 0-0. A fellow traveler. James was traveling by train with only a light backpack full of money. He was going to help his mom buy a car. On the train, he got acquainted with Mr. Brown. The two men had a nice chat, but then James dozed off. When the train arrived at James Station, Mr. Brown was nowhere to be seen. James picked up his backpack, and although it looked exactly like his, there was no money inside. The bag was filled with screws and nails. James rushed after Mr. Brown and saw the man carrying an identical backpack. After James called over a police officer, Mr. Brown explained that he had taken the wrong backpack by mistake. The police officer still arrested him. Why? Mr. Brown couldn't mix up the backpacks because the one filled with nails and screws had to be way heavier than the one with the money. An unlucky skydiver. Nick was an experienced skydiver, but one day something went terribly wrong. A strong wind blew him into the forest, and the man found himself among dense trees with no food or water. Soon, Nick saw 4 roads in front of him. One led to a supermassive black hole that was swallowing everything around. The second ended up in a river full of piranhas. The third road led to mountains that were impossible to climb. And the fourth road ended in an infinite abyss. Which path should Nick take? He should follow the third road. No one said he had to climb over the mountains. He can simply go around them. Tricky math. How many times can you subtract 2 from 50? Only once. After that, you'd be subtracting it from 48. A magic ball. You throw a ball as hard as you can. It doesn't bounce off anything, and there's nobody else there but you. Yet this ball still comes straight back into your hands. How can this be? If you throw the ball straight up, it will eventually fall back down. A tough choice. There are only 2 barbers in town. One has neatly cut hair and a clean workplace. The other's hair is wild, and his salon is pretty dirty. Which one should you choose to give you a haircut? Choose the second barber. If there are only 2 of them in town, they have to give haircuts to each other. Also, the mess in the second salon might mean the barber's too busy serving customers to clean up. Dangerous escape. Jack is locked in a room with 2 doors and no windows. There's nothing inside but a chair, a table, and a tiny hole in the ceiling. Behind the first door, there's a venomous snake. The second door leads to a glass tunnel that magnifies sunlight. If Jack steps inside, he won't survive the blazing temperatures. How can the man escape? Jack has to wait until it's dark outside. He can check it through the hole in the ceiling and leave through the glass tunnel. Eggs for breakfast. Oliver was on his way to another city. It was late in the evening, and at some point, the man felt tired and sleepy. He immediately stopped at the nearest hotel and went inside. While the receptionist was looking for an available room, Olive saw a breakfast flyer with mouth-watering eggs on it. Excuse me, could I probably have 4 fried eggs right now?" The receptionist wasn't sure about that. Our cook bought 8 eggs in the morning. He broke 3 and fried 3. Were there enough eggs left for Oliver? The cook broke 3 eggs and cooked them. It leaves us with 5 extra eggs, which should be more than enough for Oliver. A denial. 4 doctors said that Simon was their brother, but Simon claimed he didn't have any brothers. Who was lying? Everyone was telling the truth. All the doctors were Simon's sisters. A dishonest doctor. Kevin is a doctor from Boston. Once, he asked his boss to let him attend a medical conference in France. The boss lets Kevin go, but tells him to send a photo report as soon as he gets to Europe. Several days later, the man receives an email from Kevin that says, "Hello from France. That's me right now." After looking at the photo, the boss realizes Kevin has lied to him. How has he figured it out? In the photo, there is a clock on the wall that shows exactly the same time as the clock in the boss's office. If Kevin was in Paris, the clock would show a big time difference. Who is richer? Look at the picture with 2 women in it and try to figure out which one is richer. The one on the right. She's a fashion designer. The woman in red is wearing a purse with her name on it, and being a designer, she must be rich. Funny mathematics. If 11 plus 2 is 1, then how much is 9 plus 5? Two. 11 o'clock plus 2 hours is 1 o'clock, and 9 o'clock plus 5 hours is 2 o'clock. Who's lying? Ava went on holiday to the seaside and got acquainted with 3 guys. Each of them wanted to impress the girl. Once, when they all met in a restaurant to have dinner, the guys started telling Ava their stories. Ben said, "I took part in an expedition to the North Pole. It was so exciting, I saw penguins and polar bears." William boasted, "I work as a pilot, and I've already been all over the world." John couldn't keep silent. "I'm an astronaut. When I was in space last time, I went outside to look at our planet from above and was almost blown away by a strong wind." Who is lying to make a better impression? Ben and John are lying. Penguins live near the South Pole, not the North. And there's no wind in outer space. It's a vacuum. An elusive thing. The faster you run, the harder it is to catch this thing. What is it? It's your breath. Which drink? Elizabeth, Steve, and George are all drinking coffee. Karen, Dave, and Bert are drinking soda. Is Helen drinking soda or coffee? Helen's drinking coffee. She has 2 letter E's in her name, just like all other coffee drinkers. A scary creature. It has a neck, but no head. 2 arms, but no hands. What is it? It's a shirt. Lost in the forest. You're on a camping trip with your friends. While they're putting up a tent in the middle of the forest, you decide to wander around and pick up some firewood. You get so engrossed in this task that you notice that you've gotten lost only an hour later. There's no sign of your friends, and it's getting dark. Suddenly, you see a tiny house. You knock on the door and see a magician. After listening to your story, the magician offers his help. "I can give you 1 superpower, but you need to choose carefully. What do you need more, night vision, super hearing, or the ability to run lightning fast?" Being able to run very fast won't help you because you don't know where to run. Night vision will be useless because trees will prevent you from seeing your friends. Pick super hearing. It'll help you hear your friends calling you. They must be looking for you. A tricky word. It's a 5-letter word that means something you can eat. Take away the first letter and it'll be something you get from the sun. Remove the second letter and it'll be an important activity you do every day. Without the third letter, you'll get a symbol you use while spelling your email address. Take away the fourth letter and it's something you can eat. What is the original word? It's wheat. Don't break it. You're given a drinking glass and told to throw it to the sidewalk. But you have to do it in such a way that it flies 10 feet and doesn't break. Do you think it's possible? You just need to throw the glass further away. Let's say you throw it 30 feet away. Then it'll easily fly the first 10 feet without breaking. A mark on a tree. When Matt was 6 years old, he hammered a nail into his favorite tree in the garden to mark his height. Then his family moved away, and he couldn't check how fast he was growing anymore. 10 years later, at the age of 16, Matt decides to come back to find the tree. If the tree grows 2 inches a year, how much higher is the nail now? Nails going to be at the same height. Trees grow at their tops, not bottoms. Boiling an egg. You want to cook an egg for exactly 2 minutes. Unfortunately, you only have a 3-minute hourglass timer, a 4-minute one, and a 5-minute timer. How can you boil the egg for exactly 2 minutes? Wait until the water starts boiling and turn the 3-minute and 5-minute timers over. After the 3-minute timer runs out, drop the egg into the water. When the 5-minute timer runs out, you'll have your 2-minute egg. You don't need the 4-minute timer at all. A climbing trip. One man was an experienced mountain climber. Once, he set off on a new journey and promised his wife to call in a couple of days. He fulfilled his promise, and while they were chatting, he mentioned that on that climbing trip he met an old friend. "Can I invite him to stay with us for a while?" His wife agreed. But there's a problem. Half a year ago he had an accident, and now he's blind. The wife wasn't happy about the new information. In this case, invite him for a day or so. It'll be difficult to have a disabled person in our house for a longer time. After that, the husband hung up. He never returned home. The wife was looking for him but couldn't find him. 1 month later, the woman accidentally ran into her husband in the street. That's when she realized what a terrible mistake she had made. What did she do wrong? There was no friend. It was the husband himself who had an accident and lost his eyesight. When he heard his wife's reaction, he understood she wouldn't accept him and decided not to go back home. Oh, that's sad. A mysterious thing. Some people hate it, and some love it. It changes people's thoughts and appearances. If a person takes care of themselves, it goes up higher. Some people manage to hide it, others try but fail. Whatever people do, it never goes down. What is it? It's age. A tough choice. You're stuck in the forest on a windy, freezing cold day. It's getting dark, and you realize you can't get out of the forest in time. You have to find a shelter. You see an old car that's run out of gas, an ice cave, and a run-down wooden cabin. Where should you hide to survive the night? If you choose a wooden cabin, its walls won't protect you from a piercing wind. If you opt for a car, the metal it's made from will prevent the wind from reaching you. But with no gas, the car won't keep you warm. The only option you have is to spend the night in the cave. The ice will at least block the wind and conserve some heat.